For decades, we were told one simple rule: work harder, and you'll become successful. But today, something strange is happening. People are working longer hours than ever, yet millions feel poorer than before. Salaries are stagnating, costs are rising, and the middle class, the backbone of this country, is shrinking. So the question is, what if working harder is actually making you poorer? Hey, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad you found this video. Today, we're going to talk about something that nobody in school ever taught you. Something that explains why so many hardworking Americans feel financially stuck, even when they're redoing everything right. Stay with me for the next 13 minutes, because by the end of this video, you're going to see the economy in a completely different way. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's go back in time. Let's go back to the 20th century. If you were born between 1940 and 1980, or if your parents were, you inherited a very specific belief about how the world works. You go to school, you work hard, you get a good job at a factory, a company, or a firm. You get promoted, you buy a house, you retire comfortably, and your kids have it better than you did. That was the American dream, and for a while it was real. In the mid-20th century, productivity and wages actually moved together. When workers produce more, they earn more. It was a simple, fair equation. Companies made more money, and workers got a slice of that pie. Unions were strong, jobs were stable. A single income could support a family of 4. A high school diploma could get you a middle-class life. The system rewarded hard work. Period. And this is where the story gets uncomfortable. Then something happened. Technology arrived. Computers, software, the internet, automation, and productivity exploded. A single worker in 2024 can produce what an entire team produced in 1975. One software engineer can ship a product that reaches 50 million people. One warehouse worker with robotic assistance can fulfill what required 20 workers before. This sounds like great news, right? More production, more wealth, more prosperity, and in many ways it was. The economy grew. Corporations grew. Stock markets soared. But here's the twist. The workers who created all that productivity didn't get richer with it. Economists call this the Great Decoupling. Before the 1970s, productivity growth and wage growth moved in lockstep. They were tied together. You produce more, you earn more. But starting around 1971 to 1980, something broke. Productivity kept rising. Wages stopped rising. And that gap, that space between what workers produce and what workers earn, has been growing ever since. According to data from the Economic Policy Institute from 1979 to 2020, productivity in America rose by over 60%. Hourly compensation for workers, it rose by less than 18%. Think about that. Workers are producing 60% more. They're keeping less than a third of that gain. So where did the rest go? That's not a conspiracy theory, that's just math. Jeff Booth, in his book, The Price of Tomorrow, argues that technology creates massive deflation, but that deflation doesn't get passed on to workers. It gets captured by the systems and companies that own the technology. Martin Ford in Rise of the Robots goes even further. He argues that automation doesn't just displace factory workers. It's now moving up the income ladder, threatening middle-class jobs that we thought were safe. And Peter Diamandis in The Future is Faster Than You Think shows that this process is accelerating. AI, robotics, and exponential technology are compressing decades of change into just a few years. The old system is breaking down faster than most people realize. So what do hardworking Americans do when they feel financially stuck? They do what they were taught to do. They work longer hours, they take on a second job, they chase the promotion. They start a side hustle, they grind harder. And for a moment, it feels like it's working. You get the raise. You pay off one credit card. You feel like you're ahead, but then the rent goes up. The grocery bill climbs. The car needs repairs. The health insurance premium increases again, and you're right back where you started. On the treadmill, running faster, going nowhere. This is the productivity trap. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you're not smart enough. It's that the system has been quietly restructured, and nobody sent you the memo. David Graeber, in his book Bullshit Jobs, made a stunning observation. A huge percentage of modern jobs, even well-paying ones, feel deeply meaningless to the people doing them. Not because the workers are ungrateful, but because the work itself has been decoupled from real value creation. You spend your day in meetings about meetings, writing reports nobody reads, managing processes that exist to justify other processes. Have you ever felt like you're running on a hamster wheel? You work hard, pay your bills, maybe save a little, but the idea of truly owning a piece of the pie feels more like a fantasy than a reality. You're not alone. This feeling is a symptom of a massive shift in our economy. A shift that's redefining what it means to work, to own, and to build a life. Let's rewind a bit. For our grandparents' generation, the path was often clear. Get a stable job, buy a house. And that house would be your biggest asset. You owned your car, your furniture, your tools. Ownership was tangible. It was the foundation of the middle-class dream. But today, things are different. We're living in what some call the subscription economy or the access economy. Think about it. We don't buy CDs or DVDs anymore. We subscribe to Spotify and Netflix. We don't always buy a car. We use Uber or lease one for a few years. Even software like Adobe or Microsoft Office has moved from a one-time purchase to a monthly subscription. On the surface, this is convenient. We get access to more stuff than ever before without the massive upfront cost or the hassle of maintenance. But what's the trade-off? The trade-off is ownership. When you subscribe, you're essentially renting. You have access, but you don't build equity. The moment you stop paying, your access vanishes. Poof. All those years of paying for your favorite shows on a streaming service, you're left with nothing tangible once you cancel. This model has quietly seeped into almost every corner of our lives, from entertainment to transportation and even housing. Now let's talk about work. The nature of employment is also transforming. The gig economy has exploded. Platforms like DoorDash, Instacart, and Fiverr offer incredible flexibility. You can be your own boss, set your own hours, and work from anywhere. It sounds like the ultimate freedom, right? But again, there's a catch. Most gig workers are classified as independent contractors, not employees. This means no health insurance, no paid sick leave, no retirement benefits, no workers' comp. You have the responsibility of an entrepreneur, but often without the potential for a scalable profit or the security of a traditional job. The algorithm becomes your boss, and it's a boss that doesn't care if you're sick or need a vacation. You're constantly hustling for the next gig, and the platform takes a cut of every single transaction. You're working in the system, but you don't own a piece of the system itself. This brings us to the core of the issue, the widening gap between labor and capital. In the traditional economy, workers' wages and company profits used to grow more or less in tandem. When a company did well, its employees often saw a share of that success through better pay and benefits. But over the last few decades, that link has weakened. Productivity has soared thanks to technology and hard work. But for many, wages have stagnated. The gains have disproportionately flowed to the owners of capital, the shareholders, the investors, the people who own the platforms and the intellectual property. So, you might be a super productive employee or a top-rated gig worker, making a company tons of money, but your compensation is a fixed wage or a per-task fee. You're creating immense value, but you're not capturing a proportional share of it. You're renting out your time and skills, just like you rent a movie on Amazon Prime. This isn't just about fairness. It's about the long-term stability of our society. When a large portion of the population feels disconnected from the wealth they help create, it leads to frustration and anxiety. The dream of upward mobility starts to feel out of reach. If you can't build equity through a home, a business, or investments, how do you build wealth for the future? How do you secure your retirement? So, are we all doomed to be perpetual renters in a world owned by a handful of tech giants and investment firms? Not necessarily. But it requires us to think differently about ownership. The conversation is starting to shift. First, there's the rise of the creator economy. Platforms like YouTube, Substack, and Patreon are allowing individuals to build their own businesses based on their unique skills and communities. They own their brand and have a more direct relationship with their audience, while the platform still takes a cut. The creator has far more control and ownership over their work compared to a traditional gig worker. Second, we're seeing new models of ownership emerge. Think about worker cooperatives, where the employees own and control the business. They share in the profits and have a say in the company's direction. It's a model that directly reconnects labor with capital. In the tech world, there's a growing movement around Web3 and decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs. The idea is to build platforms and networks that are owned and governed by their users, not by a central corporation. Instead of a platform's value flowing to outside shareholders, it flows back to the people who actually create and use the platform. It's a complex and volatile space, but the core idea is powerful: user ownership. And finally, there's a renewed focus on financial literacy. Understanding how to invest, how stock options work, and how to build assets is no longer a niche skill for the wealthy. It's becoming a crucial survival skill for everyone. Programs that offer employees a stake in the company, like employee stock ownership plans, are gaining traction. These plans turn employees into owners, aligning everyone's incentives. When the company wins, everyone wins. The world our grandparents knew is gone. The simple formula of a steady job in a house is no longer a guarantee of security. We're navigating a new economic landscape defined by access over ownership, gigs over careers, and platforms over employers. It can feel daunting and the challenges are real, but recognizing this shift is the first step. The next step is to actively seek out and build new forms of ownership, whether that's by supporting creator-owned media, joining or starting a co-op, exploring new decentralized technologies, or demanding that companies give their workers a real stake in the value they create. The goal is to move from being just a user or a worker to being an owner. Because at the end of the day, ownership isn't just about money. It's about having a stake in your future. It's about having a sense of control over your own life. It's about rebuilding the dream, not for a past generation, but for the one we're living in right now. Thanks so much for watching. If this topic resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How has the changing economy affected you? Let's continue the conversation. See you in the next one.